Every night is the Rangers Journal night.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Journal podcast. I'm your host, Scotty, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dean and the Statsman Doug tonight in what is an off-the-cuff episode. We're just to chat a wee bit about Rangers in this hot weather. Deano, how are you, mate?
Good, thanks, mate. How are you?
Aye, hanging together. Can't complain, mate. Can't complain. Doug, how you doing, pal?
Yeah, not too bad. Melting a little bit, but yes, doing all right.
Aye, I know it's a hot unit there. I think yesterday was hotter than the day, right? You know, yesterday was hotter than the day. So, I thought we would start off with the John Souttar rumours. Doug, what's your kind of initial thoughts on Souttar and Trabzonspor? The links there. Heart and Hand tweeted out saying that there is actually something in it.
Yeah, I mean, I was literally, I speak to a mate not too long ago today, wondering what might happen with him, because obviously he was rumoured to be in contract talks before the takeover. They specifically held up for the takeover, and then we just kind of didn't hear anything after that. So I did kind of wonder if they had dried up and what the new board were thinking of him, because he has obviously only got that year left. So it kind of needs to be we sign him to a new contract or sell him if we're going to be learning the lessons from mistakes made before. So in one way it could be a decent move for him, but on the other hand, you know, why players still go to Turkey given all the issues they have over there, I don't know. So yeah, interested to see the link there, because Martin said the other day he was happy with the defenders he had in the building.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the day before or the couple of days before, he'd said NCL could leave, so he's obviously not happy with everyone in the building. So yeah, the question would then be, presumably, are we going to go out and sign another player to replace him?
Doug, where do you think that leaves Rangers with centre half then if they get rid of John Souttar?
I'd be looking for us to replace him, or either that or it bumps Ciala back into the picture. But I would assume, I mean, that's what it kind of depends on why is he said Ciala can go. Is it because he thinks Ciala is good enough, but he knows he's not going to get enough games, and so he wants him to be getting week in, week out football, or is it just he thinks he's not good enough and he can go? So you know, if it's the former, then John Souttar leaving maybe brings Ciala back into the picture because he'll be able to get more game time potentially. But if not, then I think we need to sign someone else to come in, because I mean, personally, I think we're looking at, my assumption anyway was that Souttar and Jigga would be your starting two if it's two. So you know, to me that means you're potentially bringing in Fernandez. He's still obviously a young player. So yeah, I'd probably want us to maybe look maybe a Balogun type to come in, because I'd quite like, you know, I think we've got a couple of good young players there. So you could maybe bring in a Balogun type. Does that maybe push the need to bring in Connor Cody quicker? If Cody is going to come in, he would be a good replacement. So yeah, for me, we would need another body.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. I think happy people in the comments are struggling a wee bit with hangovers and stuff today. So good on you for getting out and enjoying yourself yesterday. Dane, what's your initial thoughts on the whole John Souttar Trabzonspor saga? Is he going to join in with John Lundstrom to be his teammate again, or do you think it's just chat?
I think it's, but with it being Turkey, it's hard to put any trust, because we seem to have players linked going to Turkey every single transfer window that never seem to materialise. But if reliable, legitimate sources are saying that there is something in it, then you've got to obviously take that at face value, haven't you? And personally, I don't think that, although I'm not John Souttar's biggest fan, but in terms of our squad, I don't think we're equipped enough to have somebody of that standard leave, to be quite honest with you. I know that everybody's saying that we should be concentrating on the league and not particularly bothered about Europe and stuff, but still want to be giving Europe our best chance of doing as well as we can, and having players that tick the homegrown box is imperative to any squad. And something I chatted with Gavin for the Scotland's coefficient page in great detail, that we've never actually had a decent European squad because we've had a lack of homegrown players. Now, I know what Doug just said there, he's got a year left on his contract. We should be offering him a 2-year extension, and if it comes to the end of this season that he's not getting enough games, then by all means chapeau on. But we've got to be in a position where we're going to be having players of a viable standard to come in to give us squad depth.
Aye, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. Deano, I want to stay away. You see on the Panathinaikos tie, he's kind of coming up with a pod agenda and pod topics are kind of gearing up towards that Panathinaikos tie. There was a pre-season friendly yesterday. Barnsley, 1-1 draw. Now, my overall take on this is it's minutes in the legs, it's fitness. I'm not really taking anything today with where the team is or anything like that just now. How do you think we're giving up for the Panathinaikos side just now? Do you think the squad's in good shape with the signings and the fitness, etc.?
Aye, given it was a very, very slow and turgid start to our incomings, I think we were all, I think we had a bit of anxiety about that, didn't we? But it seems to be coming together now. In terms of the results, like you just said, it's minutes in the legs. If we, cast our memories back to 2-3 years ago when Matondo came in, we all thought it was going to be a world beater, didn't we? Because of his performances, if it was against West Ham and Spurs or something. So, I mean, take that with a pinch of salt. Sam Lammers and all, he looked pretty deadly in pre-season friendlies. So the fact that people are writing Fernandez off because he made a mistake in a pre-season friendly leaves a lot to be desired, if you ask me. So we're looking like that we're going to be a fit team again. And when I mean a fit team, I'm going back to Gerrard's level of fitness. We were, by and large, the fittest Rangers side I've ever seen. So I think by the training videos and what Russell Martin's saying, and the information that's coming out from the club, that we're going to be the fittest team again. So get the boys minutes. As I said in the chat, we need to be putting players in the shop window. We can't be letting them just gather dust on the subs bench, because if a team is going to be coming in for players, they want them to be fit and of a level at pre-season, because they're going to be wanting them to come in and make obviously an impact at their respectful clubs. So yeah, I'm not too fazed by it.
Doug, me and you had a chat in a tactics board chat last night about the level of quality we're coming up against in Panathinaikos now. Big Emmanuel Fernandez, I'm not going to criticise him in the early season mistake he made yesterday in the pre-season friendly at Barnsley. Played a slack pass to Bailey Rice, the forward intercepted it, and it's a goal now. It does creep in a wee bit of doubt in my mind, though, in terms of the quality of opposition we're coming up against. Do you think that we're going to be ready for a team like Panathinaikos' quality?
I mean, overall, yes. So, still worth remembering, we've still got plenty of players in the squad that are players that have played in the last couple of years in European games, know what they're doing, know how to approach the matches. For obviously a lot of the new signings, Europe is a new step for them, a new level, but that's where we have to have faith in the scouting of the new board, that the work they've done is that these are players that will make that step up. It's one of the reasons that, like, a lot of people there's been a lot of chat about, are we prepared enough? We've only got one, this year we've got one friendly prior to our first competitive game in terms of a proper sort of setup friendly. And there's the argument that, well, it's more important to be on the training ground and be getting the work done in the legs in that respect. And I do agree with that to a point, but I do think if not physically, then certainly mentally, that there is a benefit to full friendlies in a stadium with fans. I mean, for example, you can whether you think it's a good or bad point. The fans booed the players at half time in that friendly. Without a doubt, for those new guys, they've got an immediate message. This is day one, a friendly, and we're getting booed at half time. And fair enough, they were 2-0 down. But for some of them, that will have been an eye opener to this is Rangers. We get booed at friendlies on day one of the season. So that's an eye opener to the standards that they're going to have to be meeting moving forwards, because that's what fans are going to be given to them if they don't perform. So I feel like there is an element of being in a stadium with the fans there that adds to that. Maybe he doesn't make that mistake because maybe he's a little bit more tuned in because he knows there's 40,000 that would about to boo him if he makes that slack pass. And I'm sure in an actual game scenario, he'll also be a little bit more tuned in. So again, maybe he doesn't make that pass. It was near the end of a game, on a training game, on a hot day. I'm not looking too much into that because I can see why a mind wanders at the end of that. Whereas, like I say, maybe if that was at Ibrox, maybe he keeps a little bit of that mentality going and doesn't make that pass. And again, I would imagine if he plays against Panathinaikos, he'll be fully dialed in. And so hopefully, he doesn't make that type of mistake.
Doug, could you starting centre backs for Panathinaikos just out of curiosity?
Good question. I mean, I suppose. I mean, is this with everyone fully fit, or
just kind of with the circumstances being as it is just now?
I don't know. I mean, maybe. I mean, probably ideal. My first choice would be Jigga, and probably Fernandez because he's had a bit more. I think he's a bit more minutes. So I would probably go with those two. Although that being said, I wouldn't be against potentially. And this is me assuming again. I'm assuming we're playing a back four. I wouldn't be against maybe Tav in there because he's got the experience. That maybe certainly the new guys like obviously John Suter has experience. I'm actually not 100%. Is he fit right now, John Suter? Has he been playing in the training?
He's back training.
He's back training, right? So he's not. So he's not necessarily. Yeah, that's what I thought. So he's not necessarily 100% fit. But yeah, I would. Assuming Suter was fit, I'd probably go Jigga Suter. If not, then probably Jigga Fernandez, but maybe Tavernier for the experience because, like you say, it's a big game, higher quality opponent. So I think, like we saw the effect he had when he came on at halftime against Bruges. It seemed to calm down the defence a little bit. So assuming he can bring that, I'd maybe go in with him. So I'll say Jigga Tavernier. That's my final answer to that question.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad shout. To be brutally honest with you. Deano, how do you think we're shaping up in terms of coming up against Panathinaikos? Obviously, there's going to be a couple of closed-door friendlies this week. Is pre-season friendlies something you worry about? Do you want to see a bit of form, a bit of build-up, or do you want to see, are you just thinking minutes in the legs?
Yes, as alluded to there, we've been deceived years gone by. Performances against Real Madrid and Spurs and West Ham and whatnot to then be absolutely horrific in the league. So I'm not too fussed about that. I just want the guys to be fit. I want them to be robust, and I want them to be in the best possible place physically to endure a tough season, which is always the case at Ibrox. And to be quite honest with you as well, we've got a lot of players who are bedding in. We've also got a lot of players who are, we're wanting to get out. It's a transition, whatnot. So if we turn up and play Panathinaikos, then it might not be too bad a result that we get against them. And we've also got to think that we are we're going to be playing against a team who is well ahead of us in everything, in terms of preparation, not much probably ins and outs, things like that. So I'm pretty sure Russell Martin will have an idea of his starting 11 already.
I want to come to you on Badrami. Do you think he's going to? Russell Martin alluded to there's always a surprise for him in pre-season training. Do you think Badge could be that surprise?
No, I don't think so. I think in my opinion, that was kind of like a bit of lip service for me from him. You know, I get players that are going to be leaving. He's not going to be really singling them out. May lower value doing that as well. Players that are coming in, as I said, Bajami coming in, you know, playing that way in a pre-season friendly. As I said, it kind of just reminds me of how Sam Hammers played in a pre-season friendly. So he's got to, I guess, keep players' morale up and things like that. And, you know, if players play well, then teams will obviously want to come in for them that are, you know, well, he's fit, he's done well in pre-season, you know, things like that. So I don't think Bajrami is the type of player that will be able to play in a Russell Martin system. Just purely the fact as well, he comes across as he's inconsistent in terms of everything. So some days he'll press, some days he will not. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be at it 100% of the time with Russell Martin. So, and I don't think Bajrami's got that in him.
I always think back to the interview I done with Reddy, the Albanian football guy on Twitter, and he says to me that Bajrami's consistently inconsistent, Doug. Now, obviously, come on second half against Club Brugge. I liked what I saw. Did you? What you thinking on Badge?
Yeah, I thought he played well. He was he's in about the game. He looked strong. He looked pretty quick, and put all that together for setting up the goal. I do think there's more. I mean, I definitely think there's more in Bajrami than we've seen. The problem I have in terms of sort of evaluating that fully is that I hadn't really heard of him prior to him signing for us. So I watched the game he scored against Italy, but I probably wasn't really paying attention in terms of who he was.
Right.
But you know, he showed flashes at the start of the season, and I think he did show improvements at the end of the season. He was playing. He wasn't like particularly flash, but he was playing quite well in certain games. Some of the Old Firm matches, he was doing well in terms of marking players and putting in kind of some of the rough work. So I do think there is something there that we could potentially get out of him if there's no one snapping our heels to buy him. But at the same time, you know, if someone's out there who's going to give us a good amount of money, then, you know, I think he's a saleable asset. He has someone that we can get a few million for. So if they can, then that's fine. But, you know, he wouldn't be the first player who's had a dull period and then a new manager's come in and gotten something more out of him. Particularly because the whole squad dipped under Clement. I mean, everyone was paying. There wasn't a single player other than maybe Dessers, I would argue, that I think was actually playing to their peak for the last 6 months that Clement was there. Everyone was going down. So yeah, I think there's more to get there. It's just down to like kind of what Deano was saying. Can he produce the way that Russell Martin wants him to produce? If he's able to get that out of him, then he could be an asset.
Deano, how are you feeling about the summer so far in terms of 49ers coming in, Russell Martin coming in, the transfer dealings, about it all? Because we're coming up now a week on Tuesday, I think the Panathinaikos game is. It's close. How are you feeling, like, kind of going into it overall?
I'm feeling all right, I guess. I know we'd all like 12 in, 12 out to have happened yesterday, but you know, and to be realistic, I think we're obviously spending money. We've not had any money come in yet for anybody, so obviously it's the board are happy to do that and trust the process. But what I would like to see as of tomorrow is start seeing players go the other way though. And by the time Panathinaikos comes around, I'd like us to have a trimmed squad in terms of the deadwood. That's where I think my I guess my assumptions were to begin with. I thought, we would have seen more players have left by now, but can't really criticise too much because it is a massive transition from top to bottom at the club. So in terms of the players coming in, good things have been said about them. So we can only think that they are going to improve the squad. To be fair, was a particularly low bar there anyway, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I think the players coming in that have came in do seem to be ticking the right boxes, and I appreciate that we're only really shopping in the one market, maybe not a market that everybody is happy about. But again, we've just been realistic. We've got, limited short-term resources, and we've got to obviously use the knowledge of the experts that have come into the club to believe that they know the right type of player to take the club forward. Now, as we've seen of years gone by, players that have came in, I mean, some transfer windows you were lucky if it was a 50% success rate, but you really do need it to be about 80-90%, regardless of the club that you are. So as long as that sort of ratio does get changed for me, I can't really have too many complaints. And Panathinaikos, the qualifier was always going to come at us an early stage, which is fair enough. We've just got to play with the cards that we've been dealt. What do you think, Doug?
Yeah, I think. I definitely think you're right. Obviously, at some point we want to start seeing some of the bodies go. I think we're in danger, or I think the thing that trips us up a little in terms of how we feel about that is we want it to happen at our time scale, which is obviously before these games and certain things. But because there's so much of the transfer window left, I have a feeling that we may well be waiting a while. Some of these guys might not go towards more the latter half of the transfer window, I think. I don't think that's necessarily a huge problem now, though. It would have been 12 months ago when it was very much an in, out before in setup that we have. But I think we've got the wiggle room now that if one or two don't go when we want them, the guys in charge have the muscle to go, right, well, we're going to get this guy anyway because we need him now. Whereas I don't think we could really do that before. So we might I think we might have a little bit of pain to wait to see some of them go. But yeah, I think it just that's just unfortunately a side effect of the fact that we're having to enter Europe so early, which is a side effect of not being as successful as we wanted to be and needed to be. At the end of the day, we can stop that problem from next season if we start winning titles, because we'll be, if we're not automatic qualifying, we'll only be a step or two away rather than 3 or 4 steps away as we are now.
You're spot on, Doug. The only way to fix it all is just to start winning trophies in my eyes. I want to stay with you on Kieran Dowell. He's got an awful lot of minutes in pre-season. I suppose it's a kind of similar question to Badge. Is he one of the guys that Russell Martin's seen something in? Obviously, he's had a fit 6 months at Birmingham. He's not really been fit when he came to Rangers. He was quite injury prone even before he signed for us. What's your thoughts on it?
He kind of feels like he could be a Russell Martin player.
Does he run enough for you, though?
It wouldn't surprise me if... I think he has in some games. My problem with him was that he always seemed to kind of run about but not really ever do much. So he's never really had very many huge runs in the team. Like his 2 seasons here, he's played 16 games both years. 16 games, each year. And I don't think any of them at any point there was any kind of runs in there really. So again, it's all about what can the new manager get out of him that maybe previous managers haven't. He went to Birmingham, had a decent time of it, 10 goal contributions out of 23 games. That's a great setup. If he can do that for us, then he'd be a perfect squad player. So I'm happy for him to be there if he will contribute at that kind of level. If he's going to be a player that can come on and contribute and as I say, maybe show something that we haven't seen, then fine. Because I don't think, unlike a Davies, who I think is on a much higher wage, I don't think Dowell's on a huge wage.
Right.
So it's not an issue in terms of a financial one, I don't think. And it's always good if you can. I think it's always a benefit if you can revitalise a player that's already there. Then you've saved money rather than having to go buy someone. So that's a benefit. The problem just is that we've got obviously these we're entrenched in that he's no good because he's been no good. The only way that will change is if he becomes good and then shows that to us on the pitch. So again, it's fine that he's doing well in training, but he needs to show something on the pitch. He didn't really do much in the Bruges game. So again, is he going to just flatter to deceive in training, or can he get something out of him? I think he's been playing on that kind of right side. So I mean, maybe once Gassel comes in, maybe it becomes a moot point. Then maybe he's only playing because we're waiting on the new guy. But again, same as Bajrami, I'm happy for anyone to stay if the manager is able to turn them around and get something out of them. So as I say, same with Dowell. I've nothing against him. So if he can play well for us, then great.
I'm going to stay away on Dowell, Doug, because if I go to Deano, he's just going to shoot me down in flames on Kieran Dowell, right? And I think Dino's speaking on the majority of Rangers support when it comes to Kieran Dowell, and I probably agree with him. But Chris Davies at Birmingham plays a very similar style of play to Russell Martin in terms of playing the ball on the deck, passing the ball forward, getting it forward quickly into channels, pass ball playing centre backs, etc., etc. And Kieran Dowell stood out in that team. League One isn't probably is on par with Scottish football, I would say. So do you think because he's played well in that team that Russell Martin's maybe seen something? Is there anything in Kieran Dowell's creativity that he can play up really well? I suppose I'm just trying to find something that we can kind of hang on to if he is going to stay.
And I think that Birmingham stint is that thing. I mean, Deano would be quite right to shoot him down in flames because he's not been a great player for us over 2 seasons. So the majority of fans are right. And I mean, I'd be more than happy if we sold him. I wouldn't be upset in the slightest if we sold him because he's not done anything for us. But like you say, it's that thing that if he's played under a similar system elsewhere at a reasonably similar level, I don't think Kieran Dowell's a bad player. I've never thought he's a bad player. He's just never seemed to fit into us and fit into the football that's been played here. It's the same with Robin Proper and Davies. I don't think either of them are bad players. They just haven't managed to fit into Scottish football and play well for Rangers. So that's obviously all that matters to us. But like you say, he went down to Birmingham. He played well. Say a similar type of football. He got goals. He got assists. So you've got something in that period of time that you can go, okay, so he can produce things whether under the right circumstances. So the question is then, can we recreate the right circumstances for him at Rangers? And if so, then we will gain the benefit of that. And that's basically all we can do, as I say, until he produces something on the pitch for us for us to go, right, okay, now I'm seeing it for us, because that's the ultimate litmus test at the end of the day. We've had bigger players than Kieran Dowell come to Rangers and fail, so it's ultimately great. You've done it elsewhere. Now show that to us for us.
Aye, fair enough. Dino, I want to come to you on Russell Martin and the signings we've made so far. Is there anybody that's particularly that you're excited about? Andy Halliday, he says on Open Goal last week that he's heard the boy Asgard has been a kind of standout player in training. Andy Halliday also says the same thing about Malik Tillman and Hamza Agaman last season. Is there anybody you're really looking forward to see, and what's your kind of expectations for Russell Martin in the kind of first couple of months?
I'll answer your last question first. The expectations. I think there's going to be a lot of leniency by the board and stuff, and there has to be a lot of patience by the fans, because it might take 2-3 months for things to fall into place and for things to click, and to see a team dominating the way that we want them to for 90 minutes from the first game of the season. But I think as long as the fans see a change, a tactical ethos, a style, we get our bums off the seat and excitement when we're watching Rangers again. I think patience will come more easy with the fans and the leniency from the board, because they do seem like the board who they're quite cut and dry, and wouldn't be, put it this way, they wouldn't take as long to sack Clement, is what I'm trying to say. If Russell Martin was getting the results that Clement was getting, he would have been given his marching orders months before that, if you ask me, with this board. So, in terms of, I think Asgard at this moment in time is the standout, and I think any sort of flair player that's going to be coming in, that is going to get my bum off the seat in excitement, and that's good. That's what I'm looking forward, because it's something that we've obviously kind of been starved for in recent times. So, and the fact that, I think you just what you alluded to there, that Tillman and Agaman have been pointed out to be exciting. Of Halliday recently, well, we know how good those players have been for Rangers, so I'm looking forward to seeing them. And I think we've got to understand that getting into that Norwegian national side is no easy feat, because that is a side littered with top world class players. They're a really good international side in Norway. So I think if you're breaking into that national side when you're playing for a failing Luton side, you've got to have something about you, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to see what he can do in Scotland.
Aye, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. There's 408 watching on Twitter. Welcome to the channel. Please head on over to our YouTube and like and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It's all completely free. Dean, I want to stay with you. Going forward, seeing midfield, you're looking at Rothwell, Raskin, Diamande, Asgard. There's a lot more Lyle Cameron. There's a lot more depth there than what was there, obviously, end of last season. Striking areas, we've got pretty much the same threes we had. We're bringing in wingers and Gassama. There's been other links. See Russell Martin's style of play going forward doesn't worry me, but at the back, seeing Fernandez playing that pass yesterday, watching the highlights, it highlights the dangers of it in me in a European qualifier.
Aye, there's dangers there, but I don't think that midfield.
Do you think we're brave enough to get past Panathinaikos, seeing what we saw?
At this moment in time, no, I don't. But I do think that, I've said this to you last year, I still think we still need that anchor man sitting in front of the defence, somebody is going to be strong in the tackle, a bit of a bastard in the middle of the park. I don't think any of the midfielders that we've got kind of replicate that, as far as I'm concerned, resonate that even. But then in terms of the defence, I think as well, if you're saying about the centre halves and stuff, that is all new. If you're playing with a seasoned goalkeeper who is a sweeper keeper, the centre halves will play more confidently, but they'll play differently as well. It's all new, so we've got to, as I said before, we've got to have a wee bit of patience about that. As I said to Doug, Panathinaikos was always coming at us soon. We knew that. But it's just the cards that we've been dealt. We've got to just hopefully that we can go and play Panathinaikos, and if we don't actually get through, but we haven't embarrassed ourselves as if we see a team that's trying to play football and stuff and we're not embarrassed, I'll be content and happy with that. But yeah, I would like to see a right proper number 6 come in to make the midfield options complete for me, and also to give that added security for the centre halves as well.
Doug, what's your predictions for Lyle Cameron this season?
Well, I'm hoping for big things. I'm quite excited by Lyle Cameron. I think he was excellent for Dundee again. Another player excelling in a team that was underperforming. He chipped in with significant goals and assists, which again, I've been battering that door down for years, that midfielders and wingers don't contribute enough in our teams for us to win things. So a player like that, I think he really has the ability to become a cornerstone of our midfield if he gets the chance. He's in a bit of an unfortunate position because obviously he was purchased under the previous regime, not only just the previous managerial regime, but the previous owners as well. So there's no real way to know how the current setup view him. I have already seen rumours, and as far as I know, they've just come from some rando in a stand, so they might mean nothing. But I have already seen rumours about him not being fancied by the new regimes. So, I'm hopeful that's not the case though, because I think he could be a really good player. I think a lot of people go on about Lennon Miller, but I think he's potentially a similar level and can be just as good. And like I say, I'm really excited about the prospect of him being in our team. I could see him just taking over Diamandi's place if he plays, if he takes a step up. Because I think one thing that a lot of people sometimes do is they judge the player solely on their ability for the team that we've signed them on. So looking at him as a Dundee player, but I expect any player to come into Rangers and take a step up in level from where they were, because before you're playing for Dundee, you could draw here, you could lose here. It's not the end of the world. You're coming into a new level of expectation, a new level of standard. You're surrounded in theory by better players who have got better quality, so you learn from them, and that improves you as well. Good players, any player is better in a team of better players. So to me, he comes in, learns from all that, the better setup, everything that's available to him, and so therefore takes a step level up. So if I'm already looking at him at his level at Dundee and going, I'm excited by this, then I'm expecting him, as I say, to take that step up, ideally, and then he becomes a Rangers player. We've seen it. Your Chris Boyds, Naismiths, players like that came from smaller teams and then took the step up and became a Rangers player, and that's something I can really see him potentially doing. And as I say, I'm really excited, and I really hope he does that, because, like I say, I could see him usurping Diamandi potentially, if he gets those level of goals and assists, and playing really well if he gets a chance to do so.
Definitely. I would create an argument that Lyle Cameron had a better season than Lennon Miller last year, to be brutally honest with you. I think that in terms of output and goal contributions, etc., probably played a wee bit further out of park than what Lennon Miller did, but I could argue that Lyle Cameron had a better season than Lennon Miller. Deano, quickly, I'll come to you with kind of last question just before we wrap up on Mo Diamondi. The man that splits your group chat in half, literally half of us think that he's a player that is levels above, half of us think he's a player that's levels below. What's your take on Mo Diamondi under the new regime?
Kind of where I was before on him. I was a lot more patient with him in terms of making a decision on if he was going to be a player for us or not. I really was. I was kind of on the fence for a long time, but then you realise when he's been here for a year plus, and he's not made any efforts to bulk up, that kind of just signals to me not particularly interested in staying in this league, because you can't come to the league, our league. It's one of the most physical leagues that there actually is in professional football, and think that you're going to be a success, as I said, when you're built like the gable end of a pound note. So you're not going to, you're not going to succeed because you just get bullied every single game. But well, not every single game, but the majority of games. And we can't just have a £5 million player, or however much it was, just for playing against that mob in Europe. That's not really sustainable, if you ask me. So for me, I don't think he would fit into any. Doesn't matter who's manager of Rangers, he wouldn't fit in any Rangers side because of the league that we play in. He just is not built for it. And don't get me wrong, he flashes the absolute brilliance. And the YouTube videos that was when he played for Nordjylland and things like that. You could see the quality. Guy's got real quality about him, but just isn't suited for our league, in my opinion.
It's a fair point. It's a fair point. As like I say, he's one that divides the support. I think he's like Marmite. You either love him or hate him. I don't think there's an in between with Diamondi. Right, lads, I'm going to wrap up there unless there's anything you guys want to bring up. Doug, thanks for joining me. Any closing thoughts?
No, I think we've covered most things. Thanks for having us on. To answer the question of the pod, I think that says yes. We do need to show a bit of patience. Brand new manager, brand new board, brand new everything. It's going to take a little bit of time to gel, so let's not panic too early. Hopefully, we'll do well against Panathinaikos. I don't think it's end of the world if we don't. If obviously we'll drop into the Europa League, that's when we'll really need to be on the ball, because at the very minimum, I want us to be in the Europa League stages. That's my personal minimum line. So I don't think it's the end of the world, but let's hope, as I say, that we do well. We usually pull out the bag in Europe, so let's continue to do that, please.
To be brutally honest with you, mate, I would take Rangers Saturdays over Rangers Thursdays any day of the week, as long as we've got a big shiny thing in the trophy cabinet at the end of the season. Patience is required, though, in this kind of new style of playing, new system that we're going to be playing. There's going to be some hairy moments. There's going to be some bad moments. We just need to buckle up and try and keep the booze in our lungs, I suppose. Deano, thanks for joining us, mate. Any closing thoughts?
Hi, thanks for having me. Pleasure and privilege as always. On the patience thing, I do kind of like what I'm seeing and hearing, that more and more Rangers fans are coming to that mindset that we can't be like we've been years gone by and chucking the toys at the pram at the first obstacle in our way to get into where we want to get to. So it's good to see that there's kind of synonymous throughout the support. Well, more of the support, should I say. And in terms of, as I said this week coming, I just really want us to see some outgoings. And I'm going to contradict myself, if I don't see much outgoings this week coming, I am maybe going to become a bit impatient in that sense. But other than that, yeah, looking forward to the next few weeks. But one thing I will say is, and again, to contradict myself, it would be nice to get a wee win in one of these pre-season friendlies, just for a wee bit of momentum going into Panathinaikos, just to see that, a few goals and things like that, things working and coming together, just to have us on the right path.
Aye, definitely. Right, lads, thank you for joining me. Remember, if you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe. This was brought to you by our podcast sponsor, Off to the Match I Go. Head on over to offtothematchigo.co.uk, enter Journal 10 at checkout for 10% off all Rangers memorabilia. And we will be back tomorrow night at 6:30 to discuss pre-season preparations. And I suppose we're going to do a wee bit of comparison into previous pre-seasons as well, just to kind of see where we're at and if there's any sort of standard that we should be hitting. We'll see you then, guys. Cheers.